And we are live.
All right. And we also have that thing where I only catch one out of every 40 frames from you. So we're off to a good start here. But hello, YouTubes, my tubes, everyone's tubes.
Fallopian tubes.
Hello, fallopian tubes. Uh, Jay and Christopher here with the Lunchroom Syndicate, bringing you another edition of our remaking of the NFL all-time teams.
Reshoot.
So if the first few reshoots haven't been awkward enough for you, buckle in for this one. It's
Booyah, bitches.
promising to be a doozy, but today we're doing the Pittsburgh Steelers without James. Fuck you, James.
Rip James. He's not dead, but his video is. Yes.
What are we doing on this son bitch?
Things and stuff.
Stuff and things.
No, we are picking the Pittsburgh Steelers all-time team. 11 on offense, 11 on defense.
It's like an entire fucking field of players.
It is almost like an entire field of players. You're absolutely right. And on the offensive side of the ball, we'll be taking an offense that includes one quarterback, two running backs, three wide receivers, one lonely tight end, and four alternate offense, which could be any position on offense, and kickers and kick returners.
Oh, we sure about that?
Yeah, in theory.
Oh, okay. Well, defensive side, we are going to be taking two defensive linemen, three linebackers, and four defensive backs. And if my math comes out right, that's only 9. So we'll take two more from anywhere we feel like over on the defensive side.
Including punters.
No.
But probably not.
No.
That's right. And to help us make our team, we tier these off. And typically with the teams, we tier them off using their color. So in theory, we would use black, yellow, and white. But we didn't do that with the Pittsburgh Steelers, did we, Jed?
I think we still use their colors.
We sort of did.
They got those fucking diamond star, whatever they are.
I think they do have an official name, but yeah, that's right. But we do have that, and we are going to be using blue for the bottom, red for the middle, and yellow/gold for the top. Kind of in order how the colors go on their logo. Because it works.
That makes sense, I guess, but I was looking through here and I had a hard time determining which one was bottom and which one was middle because this is a reshoot and we already have them tiered off. And I'm looking at it going, are you sure the red's not the bottom?
No, I'm pretty sure red's bottom.
Okay. Well, red's bottom, so I'm guessing I know why for one of the players on here on quarterback. But before we get to the quarterback, we have another thing to determine.
Face of the franchise.
You're the face of the Pittsburgh Steelers?
I am the face of the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Oh, well.
Sorry, Pittsburgh. You suck. But yes, we do. From where my recollection was, it took me a minute to remember who we picked. I'm like, man, there is a lot of choices with Pittsburgh. But then it hit me.
I see. To me, while there are a lot, I'm like, there's an obvious one here. It's got to be like I know we talked about the two jack-offs at linebacker.
Mm-hmm.
And we talked about a couple of the defensive backs being in there. Like 2, 3, maybe even 4 options at defensive back.
Mm-hmm.
But it comes down to the Super Bowl guy.
The Super Bowl guy, the Coca-Cola man himself. I'm assuming that we're on the right page here.
It's got to be Bean Joe Green.
It is Bean Joe Green, indeed. That's how I heard there. Bean Joe Green. Bean Joe Green. For a team as great as the Pittsburgh Steelers have been in the Super Bowl era, especially, to have such a obvious face, it really says a lot about Mean Joe Green, because the Pittsburgh Steelers, I hate them with a passion, but they have a great team.
Well, his defensive accolades over there, 10 Pro Bowls, 4 first teams in 181 games with them, 77 sacks, his stats, his accolades, his name recognition, his Super Bowl commercial appearance, everything. It's Mean Joe Green, face of the franchise.
Absolutely.
But that's over on the defensive side. How many people did we bring up for consideration for face of the franchise on the offensive side?
Very little.
Yeah, I'd go with none. So let's go ahead and start off with that. Quarterback, who are we looking at?
We're looking at Terry Bradshaw, Neil O'Donoghue, Bobby Night Train Lane, Ben Roethlisberger, and Cordell Stewart.
All right, well, first up is Terry Bradshaw, who spent pretty much his entire career throwing to Lynn Swann and John Stallworth. So I've always looked at him with inflated stats and being just not as good as what his stats read. So those are two insane wide receivers. But you know what? He does have the stats to go with it. Edged out. Yeah, touchdowns over interceptions. So I guess he can keep his top tier status.
Yeah, I mean that's probably the face of the franchise on the offensive side of the football for the Steelers. Again, we know that's the slightly weaker side. Slightly.
I disagree. If we're going straight up face of the franchise for the offensive side, I disagree with that pick.
There is a couple other good ones. You are right, but might be about one of the more well known. He played the quarterback position. He won 4 Super Bowls. He wasn't the catalyst for all 4 Super Bowls, but quarterbacks get a ton of credit. Next up is the quarterback who first lost a Super Bowl with the Pittsburgh Steelers, Neil O'Donoghue, a.k.a. Neil O'Donnell. I don't know why I keep saying Donahue, but I did. Neil O'Donnell had it felt like he played longer in Pittsburgh. He really did. He only played for 5 years. Don't have great stats here. But he did make a Super Bowl run, so that's why he's on this list. But he is a bottom tier.
All right, then we have Bobby Day Train Lane. I don't even know why he's on here, really. Like, there had to have been a reason that you put him on here. We already talked about him. I still don't remember why. He's a bottom tier.
Yeah. Hall of Famer, more with the Lions and the Steelers, but yeah, agreed. Next up, Ben Roethlisberger.
Good old fat bastard himself.
Oh, good old fat bastard himself. Probably probably my least liked QB in the non-Tom Brady division. I can't stand Ben Roethlisberger, but
as a player or as a football, or as a player or as a person.
As a person, I want to make that very clear. As a person, piece of shit. As a player, there's a lot that
it's hard to separate the two.
It is, but he was very clutch at clutch moments. 6-time Pro Bowler. The stats are insane. He's a top tier.
And then we have Cordell Stewart coming in here, who chucked up a Hail Mary to beat Michigan in whatever Pro Bowl that they were playing in back for Colorado. Middle tier.
Slash was his nickname back in the day. All right. Now we only can pick one QB. The QB we end up choosing, I
thought it was a pretty easy choice, even though we had 2 top tiers. Neither of us like Ben Roethlisberger as a person. On the football field, he's heads and shoulders above Bradshaw.
Yeah, agreed, 100%. So he is our quarterback. Ben, fuck you. Off to the running backs.
Running backs, who are we
Okay.
looking at over here?
We have Le'Veon Bell, Jerome the Bus Bettis, Franco Harris, John Henry Johnson, Rashard Mendenhall, Fast Willie Parker, and Frank Porkchop Pollard.
Le'Veon Bell. All right, I guess. No, he had 3 Pro Bowls from 2013 to 2017, so not the longest tenure here, but really impactful while he was there. His yards per game, both rushing and receiving, are stupid, 120. But his tenure, it was short, so we went mid tier.
Yeah, I think that's a good choice for him. Explosive out of the backfield. Never really regained his form, missing that year and going to the Jets afterward. But he went to the Jets, and, well, they're the Jets. Next up, we have Hall of Famer, the Bus, Jerome Bettis. I mean, it's the Bus. He just ran over guys. He was not the fastest guy, obviously. He was a big motherfucker. Just had one of my favorite stat lines ever in a game where I think he had like 1 yard and 3 TDs on like 4 carries or something stupid.
That's what I was kind of expecting to see for his entire career here. His yards per game, 1.9, touchdowns, 78.
Yeah. He was in his prime. He was really good. I've been on the impression I've been on record saying I think he's been a bit overrated throughout his career, but he was really good, and he was an obvious top tier.
And then we have Franco Harris, the actual offensive face of the franchise here. 9 Pro Bowls with a first team. He averaged over 90 yards per game on the ground and through the air. Not as much of an impact as a receiving back, but back in the 70s, that didn't happen. And the guy's not that much smaller than the previous guy that we just talked about being a bus. So, yeah, incredible. And an even 100 touchdowns on his career. It's a top tier.
Yeah, that's easy top tier. Next up, John Henry Johnson played during the period where the Pittsburgh Steelers sucked. Believe it or not, that was a period in history. John Henry Johnson played from 60 to 65, a 3-time Pro Bowler. Solid stats for his era and for the teams he played on, and they were bad. But not big name recognition. We have him, unfortunately, even as a Hall of Famer, as a bomb tier.
Hall of Fame bomb tier. Fuck you. Rashard Mendenhall. I don't know if I liked watching him play in college or hated watching him play in college, because when I was watching him play, he was running all over us.
Yeah.
Just a really good back here for him. I think a name that doesn't really stand out amongst these others here. But he's wearing number 34, so give him a bump up to mid-tier.
Next up is Willie Parker. Probably the antithesis of backs before him. Le'Veon was after him. I mean, Jerome Bettis, Franco Harris, even Rashard Mendenhall was a little bit after him. Big backs. Willie Parker was not that, but he still could run the ball pretty well. 79 games, 68 yards on the ground, solid amount of touchdowns. We put him at mid-tier. I imagine that's probably on the low end of mid-tier, but he's a nice player.
Well, he gets a nice mid-tier because this the next name on here is Porkchop Pollard. No, can't do that to Frank.
No.
Frank Pollard here. He has the 3rd most games played of any of the halfbacks that we mentioned, but the 2nd fewest yards, the fewest yards per game, the fewest touchdowns. Wasn't huge in the receiving game. Bottom tier, move on.
Agreed.
So we have
that
top tier, and Franco Harris and Jerome Bettis are the 2 that are going up. What order are we taking them?
The order you said, Franco Harris at 1 and Jerome Bettis 2. I don't think that's much of a question either.
Then off to the wide receivers. We are looking at San Antonio Brown, Buddy Dial, Antonio Holmes, Lewis Lips, LB Nickel, John Stallworth, Lynn Swan, and Ketchup Ward.
Ketchup Ward indeed. Playing at the Ketchup Field. Although it's not called that anymore, it's now called Paycor Field because naming is stupid. First up here is Antonio Brown, another guy on the field, probably one of the best receivers you ever see. Off the field, one of the craziest guys you'll ever meet. As a Steeler, though, in just 9 years, the stats he put up was absolutely asinine. He kicked a Cleveland Brown in the head, a punter no less.
He drop kicked the shit out of a punter in the face.
He did. It was fantastic.
He could have ran by him probably easier.
Oh, yeah. He easily scored.
This took effort to get that drop kick to the face in.
Mm-hmm. The irony of that, by the way, is the Cleveland Browns, who were down big at that point, end up coming back and winning that game.
They probably don't like getting drop kicked in the face for no damn reason.
Well, they proverbially do every game, so I mean, it should be used to it. But no, Antonio Brown, his stats that he put up he was absolutely incredible. Not really sure what ended up happening with him. He ended up burning a lot of bridges the rest of his career, but he was an easy top tier.
Buddy Dial, early 60s career, played 66 games, had 71.6 yards per game and 42 touchdowns. All pretty decent, but the games played is pretty low and doesn't carry a lot of name recognition for me. Bottom tier.
Indeed. San Antonio Holmes, go Bucks, making the legendary catch against the Arizona Cardinals in the Super Bowl. Fuck you. Just because fuck the Steelers. But San Antonio Holmes, unfortunately, never lived up to his promise that came out of Ohio State, except for maybe 1 or 2 years. But that catch will always live in history. Fortunately, though, when you're talking stats and all-time teams, he is a bottom tier.
Indeed. I just had to go in there. I think you said that after everybody that I mentioned. It's just sticking out and funny to me right now.
I do. I've catched that on when I'm editing. I'm like, ugh. I edit a lot of them out because it pisses me off. I know I do. It's like I feel the need to be like, I agree. Here is nonsensicalness just for nonsensicals for this reason. Hey, Goofy.
And then here is one of my old college suite mates' brother, Christopher Lips. You remember Christopher? Man, it's been a long time since I've talked to him.
Indeed.
Oh, you jackass. Lewis Lips from 84 to 91, 108 games played, just over 55 yards per game and 39 touchdowns. Kind of in that dead era of Pittsburgh between their two like really good stints. So one of the better players during that. So bumped him up to a mid-tier.
LB Dime, good old LB Nickel here, playing from the old school Steelers, 47 to 57, 131 games. Pretty good stats for his era, 329 receptions, a little over 5,000 yards, 37 TDs. Kind of like with Buddy Dial, unfortunately, there's not a lot of name recognition there, and it's an era of Steeler football that people just don't know because that era sucked for them. They were so bad for so long till Chuck Noll came around. It's a bottom tier.
Yeah, well, maybe they should have gone through and got some football players instead of all these accountants that they apparently got here with LB.
Well, Nickel Dial.
John Stallworth, the first name here of the two that we talked about when talking about, that dipshit at quarterback.
Indeed.
Hard to determine which one of these two is better, but I think we argued John Stallworth for it. He was the number one guy. Um, Either way, he's a top tier.
And his partner in crime for a long time, Lynn Swan. The stats, if you went by stats, you would suggest, but man, this guy's a Hall of Famer. He's not that great, especially compared to John Stallworth. But Lynn Swan had an acrobatic ability to make a catch that was rarely seen in the NFL, even today. Like he would fit into today's game well. He was incredible. Didn't matter if he was double covered, high point the ball better, almost better than anybody.
Kelvin Johnson before Kelvin Johnson, man.
Kelvin Johnson. You know, again, the stats aren't great comparatively speaking, but if you watch Lynn Swan or you watch highlights of Lynn Swan, you know why he's a top tier.
Hines Ward, if you watched highlights of Hines Ward, you're wondering why he was even allowed to play. What a dirty motherfucker! God, I don't know of anybody who likes this asshole. But he's got over 12,000 yards. He has 1,000 receptions, over 200 games with Pittsburgh. Obligatory top tier, but fuck him.
Yeah, this dude. I remember going on a rant when we did the first video with James. I went on a rant about this guy. I'm not gonna do that again. My feelings on Hines Ward are very. You said it best. He's one of the dirtiest players in the league. He's like he was the Brad Marchand, not to that quite that level. Ironically, same colors of the NFL, because he didn't have to be dirty. I don't mind that he was a physical player. I think that was great, and that's one of his biggest parts of his game. But man, he was just so fucking. And one of the dirtiest plays I remember at the time, it was still technically legal, was the blindside block that he hit on Cincinnati Bengal linebacker Keith Rivers. No idea he was coming. Hines Ward just turned around and just shot him right in the jaw, broke his jaw. He was out for a long time. Never was the same linebacker after that. And, you know, that one always sticks out. But it wasn't just that. He's just unbelievably dirty.
Okay, but we got 4 at top tier. We can only take 3 of them. Antonio Brown is the best receiver, pure receiver out of them. He went number 1. John Stallworth. I'm sitting here wondering, man, why did we go with Lynn Swan over John Stallworth? I still don't know. But we went with Lynn Swan at number 2. So John Stallworth at 3? No, that fucker at 3. John Stallworth is going to have to hold off here for an all-O position.
Yeah, this is the first position that if you and I did the rankings like we normally did, I think there would be a vastly different ranking. But this you see a lot of James's influence here. This is a lot of a James top 3, because I agree. I think John Stallworth would be 2, Lynn Swan would probably be 3, and Hines Ward would be kicked to the all-to-O. But
yeah, but we got input from an actual Steeler who's not here for the retaping and who was looking forward to seeing his edited video.
Sorry, James.
You left Christopher in charge of the video, and here we are.
Hey, Jay. Not sure if you see this. But moving on to the tight end position. And if you've watched our videos, you know this tends to be a very weak position, and Pittsburgh's no exception. Because we have Benny Cunningham, Eric Green, and Heath Miller.
We have nobody, and all right, but when compared to teams with actual tight ends, still not much. But Heath Miller is still a mile ahead of the other 2. He's a top tier, and he's the one we're taking.
Indeed. And that's all the time we're wasting on the tight end position.
More than they deserved.
All right, now we move on to our alternate offense, as we mentioned before, but just reiterating, this can encompass any offensive position. And we will be choosing 4 from the following: Dermontti Dawson, David DeCastro, Alan Faneca, John Kolb, Marquise Pouncey, Antoine Randall L., Mike Webster, Terry Bradshaw, Le'Veon Bell, and John Stallworth.
Dermontti Dawson, 88 to 2000, 7-time Pro Bowler, 6-time first team, and 184 games. He's a top tier. He's a Hall of Famer. And when we're wondering why later, why we went with one name over the other, keep in mind 184 games.
Absolutely. Damn it. Did it again. Not indeed, but. Next up, David DeCastro, playing from 2012 to 2020, a 6-time Pro Bowler in his own right, 2 first-team All-Pros, 125. Injuries kind of sapped him, and if he could stay healthy, I think he could be a lot higher on this list. Unfortunately, injuries just really kind of kicked his butt a bit, but he's still a mid-tier.
Alan Faneca. From 1998 to 2007, 7 Pro Bowls, 6 first teams. Man, that sounds very familiar to somebody I just talked about. 158 games played. That's like 2 seasons less.
Pretty much.
3-year span, 2 seasons less.
Indeed. Damn it. I can't stop.
Now he's awkwardly aware of it.
Fuck you. John Kolb, he's taking my wrath here. Playing from 69 to 81. Didn't even make a damn Pro Bowl. He's a fucking bottom tier.
Marquise Pouncey, 2010 to 2020. That's a 9-time Pro Bowler in 134 games. Really dominant player out there. But we got some hefty boys out here, so he's mid-tier.
Yeah, mid-tier for a guy who's made the Pro Bowl every year of his career that didn't have an injury involved. Pretty impressive. Antoine Randall L., nice gadget player here. Probably doesn't belong, but he threw a touchdown in the Super Bowl. That was pretty cool. Did have 4-punt return TDs and a kickoff to go with it in 80 games. Not exceptional numbers, but worth mentioning. Bottom tier.
Mike Webster is, it's Mike Webster. He would be my second pick for offensive face of the franchise. So yeah, he's a top tier.
And then we have our 3 holdovers from other positions: Terry Bradshaw, Le'Veon Bell, and John Stallworth. I don't really see a need to change any of their rankings. I think they're both fair, or they're all fair.
Yep. So I mentioned it before. My second place face of the franchise, Mike Webster. He's going up in this first All-O spot. Terry Bradshaw has 4 Super Bowls as a quarterback. He's going up there, but he's not the most exciting player. He can go up in the last spot. John Stallworth, again, he should have made the top 3. He was my number 2, maybe even my number 1. I don't know, man. It's John Stallworth. He's going on there. Now we have 2 guys, Dermontti Dawson and Alan Faneca. Which way did we go?
This was a tough one. I remember having the debate back when we made the video initially, because Dawson and Faneca, you really both deserve to be on this list. Dermontti Dawson ended up winning out a Hall of Fame center. You rarely ever see that. 184 games, was one of the most dominant centers that I've ever seen, and when I make notice of that, that's pretty impressive. Center, being known to be dominant as a center is so rare. He's one of those guys that always, when I think Pittsburgh Steelers offensive linemen's post 70s, he's probably number 1 or number 2 with Alan Faneca there. It was a close call, but Dermontti Dawson got the 3rd spot.
Poor Alan Faneca not making this team, and he makes a lot, if not every other team.
Yeah, it's kind of wild.
So our offensive lineup has Ben Roethlisberger at our starting quarterback position with Franco Harris and Jerome Bettis, a big bruising backfield. Antonio Brown, Lynn Swan, Hines Ward out receiving, getting some help with Mike Webster and Dermonte Dawson on the line. John Stallworth also coming in your nickel packages. Terry Bradshaw backing him up. And we have Heath number 2.
Hi, Heath. I made the team, guys. But yeah. Solid offense. But if you're thinking Pittsburgh Steelers, though, realistically, you're probably not thinking offense. You're thinking defense. And it's time to go to the defense. But first, we're going to take the defensive line. The Steelers are historically known as a 3-4 defense. So this defensive line, not very deep compared to what you might think. Because we are going to be looking at Mean Joe Green, L.C. Greenwood, Cameron Hayward, Ernie Staltner, and Keith Willis. And man, those drop off quickly.
Well, we're going to have a little bit of a decision to make, but that's not going to be any problem here for Mean Joe Green, who's going to go up in the number 1 spot. He was our face of the franchise. He is the defensive line for the Pittsburgh Steelers. Even if you didn't have another player on there, you have a good defensive line, Mean Joe Green.
But those Steelers did have somebody else with them, and a pretty damn good one at that as well, playing the identical term as Mean Joe Green. L.C. Greenwood. It was real green back in the day. 69-81, 6-time Pro Bowler. Had more sacks than Mean Joe Green, ironically. By a half a sack, admittedly, but still 78 unofficial sacks. Need to say that. He's a top tier, too.
Well, yeah. Another one that's going to be a top tier is Cameron Hayward, a present-day player coming on the team in 2011. Catching up really quickly if he hasn't already passed them in games played, which I'm guessing he probably has. At least LC.
Oh yeah, I think he's caught Joe Green as well at this point, or he's damn close. He's damn close. He hasn't quite made it.
His sack total of 68 and counting, 2 interceptions, a bunch of forced fumbles. He's a mean dude.
Top tier.
Mean Cam Hayward.
Does he have a famous father? Sorry, completely random.
Yes, I believe his famous father is Jesus.
Yes, yes indeed. Wow. Who knew? No, his father was the famous running back who played 11 years in the NFL, Craig Ironhead Hayward. So, NFL hardcores will know that name pretty well. And, yeah, he was a really good back in his time, too. Didn't play for the Steelers, but played for a number of teams, but back in the 80s and 90s. Anyway.
I know the name Ironhead better than anything else with it.
Yep. Good nickname. Good nickname. Next up is another Hall of Famer, but one that's going to be taking a bit of a step back. Ernie Staltner, a 9-time Pro Bowler with the first team All-Pro to go with it from the 1950 to 63. Played 173 games. Had some sacks. 15 and a half was the only thing I could find. He probably had a lot more than that because you can't get sack totals from pre-1960. A couple picks.
But if
not the biggest name.
Estimating.
What's that?
If you're going to be estimating and you come up with 15 and a half.
Well, the website I use can reliably go back to 1960. That's what what it read. Because of like game film and stuff. At pre-1960, it's a lot harder to get complete game film. So it's almost impossible to figure out how much sack totals he actually had back then.
You'd still hope he would be a little closer to that 50 number than 15.
True, but that's only with 4 seasons effectively, and it was towards the end of his career.
Yeah, tough luck.
Still
mid-tier.
Still mid-tier.
And then there's Keith Willis, who did have the 50 mark in sacks, 59. But it's Keith Willis. Who gives a damn? Bottom tier.
What you talking about, Willis?
Talking about Keith. Who gives a damn?
Indeed. So.
Indeed.
Had to get my Indeeds up. Hi, Edgy. All right. We have 3 top tiers with only 2 spots here at the defensive line. We already said Mean Joe Green's going that top spot. We had a pretty big decision to make with Cameron Hayward and L.C. Greenwood.
Yeah, but there's one of these players that all 3 of us got to watch, continue to get to watch, and, just growing numbers. We went Cameron Hayward. You're not going to go wrong with either one, but that's the way we went.
Indeed. Recency. What? It's not bias. It's completely factual. Not at all subjective, damn it.
All right, then we have a linebacking core to go over. A linebacking core that is going to have some big names on here, getting some pretty low tiers. Because we had to draw a line, because we're looking at James Ferrier, Kevin Green, Jason Gilden, Jack Ham, James Harrison, LaVon Kirkland, Jack Lambert, Greg Lloyd, Joey Porter, Andy Russell, Lawrence Timmons, TJ Watt, and another drop-kicking son of a bitch, Lamar Woodley.
We didn't say it in this video, but in a lot of our videos when we talk about the tier list, we talk about how you need to associate our tiers with just the position itself, because you can't really do it saying like, oh, this person's a bottom tier, so they must suck everywhere else. It's like, no, this is why, because the Pittsburgh Steelers linebacking position is so fucking stupid good that we had to put people at bottom tier that have no business being a bottom tier.
I'm just going to go ahead on that note and skip ahead to our second player here of Kevin Green, who has no business as a bottom tier player. His games played is only 48, which is why he ended up as a bottom tier here. But even with that 48, he's at least a mid tier on almost every other team. He's cracking your top 3 on some teams.
35.5 sacks in only those 48 games. An absolute stud of a linebacker. But this linebacking core. Now you mentioned Kevin Green. Let's go back one at the start here with James Ferrier, playing from 2002-2011. Just a damn solid linebacker. The linebacker's linebacker, if you will. Just did everything. Had 30 sacks, 9 interceptions, 12 forced fumbles, over 1,000 sacks in 154 games.
He had over 1,000 sacks in 154 games?
1,000 tackles. 1,000 tackles, damn it.
Indeed.
.com. Sponsor us, Indeed. That's right, our new sponsor is Indeed.com.
I was trying to think of a way to make a reference to the Indeed.com. You beat me to it.
Finally, it came in handy.
I'm
Indeed.
saying it enough.
Indeed. James Ferrier, mid-tier. And mid-tier on this team. Damn good player.
Well, we already talked about Kevin Green. Why don't you jump on over to your next one?
Jason Gilden. Man, this dude was a beast. 77 sacks in 158 games. Played that edge rusher position of the 3-4, so he didn't really play a nominal linebacker position. It's also what makes this team tough because a lot of these guys are edge rushers, so they're effectively defensive ends playing a weak line, the outside linebacker position. Jason Golden was a really solid one in his own right, but does not come anywhere near our top tier, but still was a solid player, mid-tier.
That's 77 sacks for a mid-tier. That's got to be the highest on the list. Jack Ham is our next player on here. It's Jack fucking Ham. One of the two Jack-offs from 71 to 82. 8 Pro Bowls, 6 first teams, 25.5 sacks, 32 interceptions, and it's Jack fucking Ham, top tier.
You remember you talked about that 77 sacks being the highest in the sack tier?
It's gotta be.
It's gotta be. Well, now we got James Harrison.
Fuck.
80.5 sacks, 177 games, 33 forced fumbles. Fuck him, though, because, like Hines Ward, he was an incredibly dirty fucking player. And I feel like maybe that's why he got bumped down from a top tier, because he has top tier stats. But again, 80.5 sacks, mid-tier.
All right. Well, Levon Kirkland, you got some big names to live up to. You have 144 games to do it in. But you know what? You just didn't get it done. You're a bottom tier. But you got mentioned on this team. Good job.
I liked Levon Kirkland when he played. He was more of a traditional middle linebacker, really good player. Of course, and our second Jack off here, Jack Lambert. You thought Jack Ham was mean. Look at that face. Look at that face on YouTube edited video, because you're watching this live. You don't see it right now. Ha ha, fuckers. Jack Lambert.
Video coming to you soon, 2053.
That reminds me, happy holidays, everybody. It's December 2022, and if you're watching the edited version, happy holidays 2023.
You think you're going to have it done next year.
I know, right? Well, technically, these are taken up, like, not long after my current video, so maybe. But Jack Lambert, easy top tier. 9 Pro Bowls, 6 all-first-team All-Pros, 28 interceptions in his own right, 146 games. It's Jack fucking Lambert.
Yeah, and then we have Greg Lloyd. Man, I know he's got 5 Pro Bowls and 3 first teams, but when I'm looking at the other mid-tiers, he's probably behind the other ones for me. Oh, did I already say mid-tier? Oh, okay, we can move on then.
Okay. Joey Porter, 99, 2006, 3 Pro Bowls, 1 first team, 60 sacks. I think he feels like he's in that Greg Lloyd mold, as you mentioned. Still a solid mid-tier, but even the ones we've already named prior to Greg Lloyd, he's still inferior to them, but I think he's better than the bottom.
See, you say that. He might be my biggest name of the mid-tier guys.
That's fair.
And did you say bottom?
Mid. I thought I said mid. If I said bottom,
Well, if you said bottom, maybe you were thinking to Andy Russell here, because even while stealing my number and getting the boost up, that doesn't get him above the bottom tier, playing in the 60s to mid-70s. He does have 7 Pro Bowls, but no.
But he looks like Burt Reynolds.
Yeah, it must be Burt Reynolds or something.
Another solid name here, Lawrence Timmons. Everyone's solid on this fucking linebacking core. Played from 2007 2016. Probably one of the rare underrated linebackers in Pittsburgh history. You don't really see a linebacker go unnoticed as much as Lawrence Timmons has, but he was still a good linebacker in his own right. 35.5 sacks, but goes along with 12 interceptions, 13 forced fumbles. Only 1 Pro Bowl, and yet he still made our mid-tier.
T.J. Watt, one of the best current defensive players in the game. Top 5 at least. He's just a dominant force. He's a top tier.
And finally, everybody was kung fu fighting it, especially Lamar Woodley. Lamar Woodley played only 7 years, 1 Pro Bowl, 94 games. Another solid linebacker, but tenure here really kills him. Even with 57 sacks, which is pretty good for that low amount of games, he was a bottom tier.
All right, well, that gives us 3 top tiers and 3 spots, so that job is easy. TJ Watt's going to go up in the 3rd spot because while he is dominant, he's not one of the 2 jack-offs.
Not yet.
Yeah, not yet. Well, this is now we are doing the video, so.
Yes, exactly.
And
it's completely factual.
And Jack Lambert. Do we go with the better one or the meaner one? And when I say the better one, did the better one just have fewer Pro Bowls? Holy shit! Jack Ham had. Oh man, it's a 1A, 1B, and there's no number 2 on this spot here. Let's cram them both into that first box there and move on.
Yep.
It's a double-fisted jack off. I don't know what you're doing because your screen froze. I don't know what kind of reaction you had to that. Sorry.
I just gave a motion with my 2 fingers, or not my 2 fingers, my 2 fists, punching forward towards the camera.
I'll just do this one.
That works.
And we can move on.
Well, speaking of moving on, we're moving on up to the defensive back positions. We'll be picking from Mel Blount, Jack Butler, Ryan Clark, Carnell Lake, Darren Perry, Troy Polamalu, Donnie Shell, Dwayne Woodruff, and Rod Woodson.
Holy shit, there's some names back here too, including Mel Blount. He's a Hall of Famer. He's a top tier on this list. He played 200 games in Pittsburgh. I can't imagine anybody playing more games than he did for Pittsburgh back at the defensive back side. But he had 5 Pro Bowls, 2 first teams, 57 interceptions.
Well, our next player didn't play nearly as many games as Mel Blount, but he did almost have as many interceptions. Jack Butler, Hall of Famer, 52 interceptions in 104 games. 5 of them returned for TDs, 5-time Pro Bowler, 3-time first-team All-Pro. Does not have the name recognition quite as much as Mel Blount, but yeah, he's still a top tier.
Man, I'm looking at our selection, and this just reeks of James.
It does.
Ryan Clark. Comparatively speaking here to the names that we just talked about, I don't know how Ryan Clark walked away with a mid-tier, but he did. Congratulations.
Really, really good, solid safety. Had to be the cover guy for Polamalu's shenanigans. Really good shenanigans, but Polamalu was not the cover safety. Ryan Clark was. I was a fan of Ryan Clark, so I was comfortable putting him at mid-tier. Next up, Carnell Lake, a 4-time Pro Bowler and first-team All-Pro, 21.5 sacks, 6 TDs. He was a playmaker back there, 16 interceptions in 154 games. It's not a lot of interceptions, but he was a damn good safety in his own right. And I remember him in his 1 year in Jacksonville where he was really fucking good still. I was a big fan of Carnell Lake, but his stats doesn't really scream out very much, and we end up putting him at bottom tier, comparatively speaking.
See, and this is what confuses me because we just put Ryan Clark at a mid-tier and Carnell Lake at a bottom tier. Again, there's something here that just reeks of James because that doesn't make any damn sense. He's got 22 fucking sacks at the defensive back position. Anyway, Darren Perry, you're behind Carnell Lake. Carnell Lake got a bottom tier. Sorry, bud.
Indeed. Damn it. What sucks is when I edit this, I have to keep all these in because now it's the running joke of the video.
No, what's going to suck is while you're editing this, you're going to have to actually pay attention and put an Indeed count up for how many times you actually said it.
Yeah, you're right.
Well, editing, you're going to have to go back and put this here at the beginning so we can do a poll. How many times do you think Christopher will say Indeed in this video? I'll give you an over-under of... it's been a lot, but I don't feel like it's like a Connor McDavid level a lot. Um,
Is it a Leon Draisaitl amount?
um, I don't know.
Oh, you're looking adorable. You're looking so cute, Chet.
I think it has been a lot. I'm trying to think. Like Tage Thompson is having a good year. I'm trying. Is 72 too many for the over under?
I hope so.
I would like to say I hope so as well. But I also feel like going back and giving a Dowling 26 might be low, but that's where we're at. Over under Rasmus Dowling 26. How many times does Zunk say indeed?
I hate everybody. But you know who I didn't hate? Troy Polamalu. Troy Polamalu just created chaos for offenses when he played a hell of a damn good safety. Although I have said on multiple occasions I thought he was a pretty rough cover safety. If you got him in coverage, that's the man they went after. But he had to get there first, and he oftentimes just disrupted offenses like nobody's business. Hall of Famer, 8-time Pro Bowler, 4-time first-team All-Pro, easy top tier.
Yeah, and Donnie Shell from 74 to 87, 5 Pro Bowls, 3 first teams. That's going to equal a Jack Butler amount, but it took him 201 games. He played more than Mel Blount. I had no idea when I mentioned that earlier.
Not a clue. Completely factual.
51 interceptions for him, 9.5 sacks, 5 touchdowns, and it's a fucking Ninja Turtle.
Absolutely.
Top tier.
Poor Dwayne Woodruff. You gotta follow that. I played from 79 to 91, had 37 interceptions. But you know why, more than anything, I think I put him on the bottom tier? Because who the hell wears the number 49? That's such a weird fucking number. But he did.
40's not weird. 47's not weird.
I don't know. 47 is AJ Hawk, so that ain't weird to me. 43 doesn't feel.
Packers.
Yeah, but these are DBs. I don't know. 49, just that individual number, not because it's in the 40s, just 49. Just is weird. That one number. But nonetheless, he's a bottom tier either way.
Rod Woodson. Man, you could make a really strong case that he's the number 1 defensive back on this team. It's not going to be a strong enough case because he's going to go up at number 2, but it's 7 Pro Bowls, 5 first teams, and it's Rod fucking Woodson. Insanely good, but he is also 20 interceptions behind Mel Blount. Congratulations.
What?
You made it.
Hard.
You made it through that. The computer froze, so I can't see your facial reaction, but I'm picturing you just struggling to hold it in, like you're out on a first date and you gotta fart.
It was turtle heading. I'll tell you that right now. It wanted to come out, but I'm like, no, don't do it. Don't do it. All right, but we have 5 top tiers, but only 4 spots. And we already mentioned our top 2, Mel Blount and Rod Woodson. Well, and honestly, I think number 3 is pretty easy, too.
Oh, number 3 is pretty easy? I was going to jump ahead to 4 and say it's Donnie Shell. He's a Ninja Turtle. He's going up. But if you want to start with number 3 first, okay. Yeah, I agree. Well, it's easy. It's Jack Butler. Let's move on.
Oh, I would, that's not who we picked, Jay.
What? How is Jack Butler not up there then?
Because you gotta put Troy Polamalu on there somewhere.
Son of a bitch.
It's a damn good team. That's a tough one to leave off Jack Butler. But Troy Polamalu, despite his cover issues, and I think that needs to be talked about when you talk about him as a great player, he was such a game wrecker that it masks that very well.
Okay, and then we are going over to the Alt D. And again, I have problems here. We're looking at LC Greenwood, James Harrison, Joey Porter, and Jack Butler. LC Greenwood is insane. He was battling with Cameron Hayward for the spot. We have Joey Porter, who was a mid-tier, but on a damn good linebacking core. We have James Harrison, again, a mid-tier on a damn good linebacking core. And there's Jack Butler. At least he's still making this team.
About that.
Yeah, I know. LC Greenwood is going up.
Yeah, LC Greenwood, despite the other names, easy number one. He obvious pick here.
Now we have Jack Butler versus two linebackers who were both mid-tier before, but now they're both up to a top tier because they're not going up against Jackoffs and TJ Watt. So, I guess we've already gone and spoiled it here. Jack Butler's not going up. Wrong choice. But at least we have Joey Porter going up.
Yeah, at least we have Joey Porter. I really hate being the bearer.
James Harrison. We have James Harrison and Hines Ward making this fucking team.
Yeah. James.
James. Like, seriously, what are you doing?
Fucking Steelers fans don't even know their own team better than the lunchroom syndicates. Completely factual, not at all subjective. Pittsburgh Steelers, all-time.
Well, you can't put that on here now because apparently it is subjective. We threw facts out the window for this one.
No, I'm saying ours would have been completely factual.
Well, yeah, but if we're taking Hines Ward and James Harrison up.
But we listened to James.
Yeah, so it's no longer factual. This is a subjective video.
Completely fiction, completely subjective. Pittsburgh Steeler all-time team. Damn it, I'm screaming for some reason. I'm scaring the cats. I scared Jed away. He was laying on my lap, all adorable.
Well, our defensive lineup then. Up front, we have Mean Joe Green, Cameron Hayward, and Mean Joe LC giving them the green wood.
Ooh, might want to go get tested.
Linebacking core, holy shit. Jack Ham, Jack Lambert, TJ Watt, and not Joey Porter. And defensive backs, we have Mel Blount, Rod Woodson, Donnie Shell, and not Jack Butler.
In other videos, other reshoots, we talked about our tier list that we did at the end of all these videos, and the offensive lineup I think we put into the above average category, but defensively, where do we put this team?
Well, the Steelers finished above average in offense. They finished 10th overall. The team as a whole finished 3rd overall. So where did the defense finish? Number 1.
Yeah, and number 1.
A pretty easy number 1.
Yeah, I mean, number 2 was a bit of a surprise until you actually look at the team, which I believe we've recently redid as a replay as well. Washington, now Commanders. The Bears being fourth is a bit of a surprise. I thought they were a little higher, but yeah. But no, Pittsburgh, easy number one. This defense is, even with James Harrison on there, is so stupidly good. It's what they're known for, the Steel City. It's what they're known as, Steel Curtain, one of the best nicknames in sports. I mean, they still produce great players. I mean, even today, like we said, we have Cameron Taylor, we got T.J. Watt, who unfortunately this year suffered a major injury, was out for about 8-9 weeks, but is back now, tearing up teams. This just sucks. Their offense is terrible. Well, I mean, it's good for me because they're losing a lot, but yeah.
Yeah, so go ahead and down in the comments below here, chime in with James and let us know what other fictional characters here that you would want on the team have wanted. Me, English good.
Me fail English? That's impossible.
Yeah, but that's where we're at. So thank you for joining us for the Pittsburgh Steelers all-time team. And until next time, boys.
One more to go. One.